Hello and welcome to my channel, Will Crewdson. So great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your channel. Very cool.
So your shirt says Scant Regard, and that's also the name of your YouTube channel. How did you choose that name?
I came up with that about 10 years ago when I wanted a name for I wanted to go do a solo project with me on my own and playing live on my own, recording everything on my own. And the whole idea was that I didn't really care about what anyone thought or, about what I was doing. I didn't even care. I just didn't want to have any regard for anything apart from music and the performing. So I just thought it was quite an apt name. It's kind of like, and I thought it almost sounded like a first and a second name. So when I'm on stage, I feel like I am Scant, and that's my second name. And yeah, I've just stuck with that really. So that's my solo thing really.
That's your stage name.
Yeah, I guess so. It's like sort of alter ego thing. Yeah.
It's like everybody who's on a stage is performing in some sense. So they're like an elevated version of themselves or like a completely different version, the adrenalized, feeding off of the energy of the people.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a lot of the people that I was into when I was growing up they either changed their name or they had like a sort of alter ego. So I guess I was kind of inspired by that. But also because I have another band, she made me do it, and that's I'm myself in that, so it's nice to kind of make a distinction, even if it's in your own head, to sort of for different projects that you're involved with.
That's so interesting. So how do you feel, what's the difference in how you present yourself between being yourself and being Scant Regard?
I don't know, I just get possessed when I'm on my own because I kind of because you're sort of giving all the energy yourself, so you're kind of channeling so much more energy than when you're playing with a band, that it's almost like it possesses your mind anyway. It does with me. So I guess that kind of naturally happens. I do kind of step into that persona. I haven't really actually thought about that much. It just kind of seems obvious now talking about it. No one's asked me that before. It's a good question. So yeah, I think it's probably why it's all quite natural, really. Even although I kind of evolved myself, I evolved myself into that persona in a way. Yeah,
it must be so interesting thinking back on the people that you've worked with and seeing the differences between their stage personas and who they are when the adrenaline drops, and it's just like when you've given everything and then you go off and it's just like, I can just sleep for a week now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I see that a lot. Yeah. With bands that I've started with other people, I've kind of seen them living quite normally, and then on tour it's always very different. Yeah, because adrenaline has a lot to do with it, with your state of mind. Definitely. Yeah.
I was an actor for 12 years, traveling all the time. We lived out of suitcases, lived out of vans, and stayed in people's houses. And so I remember that the really exhausting thing about life isn't the performing. That's the high point. That's the fun. It's the being around people all the time and being on for them, being your people self.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, that can be very tiring, especially when you're living like that all the time.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
And I'm an extrovert and I got tired, so I can't imagine how it was for all the introverts that I traveled with.
Yeah, I guess. But then maybe that's why you did get so tired, because you were being extroverted, that takes a lot of energy. Yeah.
And when they had to go and excuse themselves, then I had to be the one to stick around even longer.
Right. Oh, you took the brunt of it then.
You have quite the history of music experience and performing experience.
I guess so, yeah. I've been doing it for quite a while now with a few different people.
It's basically been your whole life, huh?
Pretty much, yeah. From when I was about 7 years old, till now. So that is a long time, yeah.
Well, what got you started in music?
I had piano lessons when I was 7, actually. That was the first instrument. My parents they were really into music. They were both in the performing arts, but not musicians. My dad was an actor and my mother was a dancer. Yeah, so they both were into music, and they wanted me to they wanted me to learn the piano, which I wasn't that into really initially. And I changed to guitar a couple of years after that, and I learned guitar from the age of 9. And then I just joined a band as soon as I left school, really, pretty much. It's weird because it's like now that I listen to all different kinds of music, and I can kind of see that, you know, you can be just as much of a genius pop writer, you know, for want of a better term, as a classical composer, really. You know, there's definitely a lot of overlapping, especially in the sort of prog world, you know. But I guess people just are conditioned into sort of appreciating classical music, and they can't sort of see the other paths it can take, really, you know, which is unfortunate, really, because I'd like to, you know, I appreciate classical music as well now, you know, I appreciate everything.
It's so amazing, the breadth of music, the like bluegrass and the Appalachian Mountains and bagpipes and rock and roll. It's just like, it's amazing what cultures and people can just come up with out of their creativity.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's great when you mix it all up, you know, that's the most amazing thing, you know, mixing up all the ingredients to make something new, you know.
Yeah, you can see a lot of that in like Eurovision, the people bringing different styles together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't watch it this year, but did you watch it?
I didn't watch it this year either. But there's been years when I did watch it, and it was like, I remember being so disappointed when this guy that was like, it was the yodelers. There's people that combined like hip hop and yodeling, and I loved it so much. It was so cool.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
I think it's called
yodeling. Let's bring back yodeling, definitely.
You started a band as soon as you could. And how long did it take from that to like being discovered and getting out on the road and touring and stuff?
Well, I had a few bands that didn't really tour because we didn't really get past that, and, you know, for one reason or another, certain members, you know, weren't right, or they weren't in it for the long haul like me, you know. So I did that for, it's probably about 5 years really, until I met a guy called David Ryder Prangley, and we sort of got on immediately. We had all the same visions, and he wanted to be in a band, and that's when we got signed and everything, and we started touring, and that was my band Rachel Stamp. So yeah, it took about 5 years of slogging out, you know, just gigs around London, and but no touring. So yeah, so I was kind of I guess I was sort of experienced enough, rather than going I can't imagine what it would have been like going straight out on the road, you know, immediately. I think it's quite good that I eased myself into it, you know.
Totally. So what would you say to your younger self about the experience, and about what you shouldn't have done or what you should have appreciated?
I guess I should have, because we actually got quite a big deal with a lot of advance, a lot of money, and I think that's probably the only thing, because we just went out and bought loads of instruments. We just thought, oh, we can buy loads of guitars, you know, and you know, and then these sort of things that, you know, you're left with them, and I guess we could, at that point, we probably could have got mortgages at that point, you know, and like actually owned our own property, but we didn't. We just didn't think like that, you know. So I'd probably tell myself to maybe try and invest a bit wiser. Yeah.
I'm just imagining all these kids, all you kids with like, wow, 7 guitars. This is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like that. It was ridiculous. You know, it was literally like we go into the West End of London and go in a shop and just buy everything. You know, because that's what the money was for, you know. It's kind of, that's what they told you it's for. I mean, we did get a wage to live on for a few years and stuff, so that was good. But yeah, I think that I wouldn't regret anything else, really. I don't think I regret the way we did it or what we did. Yeah.
Well, there are definitely worse things to spend large amounts of money on.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, it could have been worse. Yeah, luckily that none of no sort of vices like that took our money, so.
Sounds like you were good kids. There should be so many more practical things taught to young artists, that people just like how to deal with people, with fans, how to deal with people knowing who you are and all the pressure. It must be so much pressure all of a sudden for people to know who you are and to want something from you.
Yeah, I mean, even in that band, we only achieved kind of a cult status. So basically, most of the focus was on the singer, and I was quite happy with that. I never wanted to be a front person, so I didn't really have to deal too much with that. And I used to be a bit more shy than I am now, I guess. So I didn't really even go out and speak to the audience after the gigs or anything at that point. So yeah, I just kind of I stayed away from it really. So it didn't really affect me. I don't think, unless it affected me without realizing it.
I thought it'd be really interesting to hear about what the relationship is when you're a musician to your manager.
Well, I haven't had a manager actually managing myself for quite a while. Not since I was in that band, the band Rachel Stamp I was talking about. We got signed a while ago. Because I mean, the only sort of dealings I have with management are normally at this point of managers of other people that I work with, like Adamant, obviously has a manager. But they're not actually managing me. I'm kind of self-employed in that instance, so.
You've had to learn how to do that on your own.
Yeah, you kind of have to manage yourself, really. Yeah. But I quite like that. I mean, that's why I started doing stuff on my own. The best manager we had with our old band he was obviously really into music, and not just the business side of it. Obviously, they've got to be a business-minded person as well. But I think, yeah, the best people I've ever had managing myself or bands that I've been involved with, you can tell they're just passionate about music, and I think quite often people do get stuck with a manager that's literally just thinking about money, obviously that's a big part of it, but yeah, I think you have to have both, really.
I had no idea about any of this whole world of managing. So when I spoke to him, this is the guy that actually signed ABBA before they won Eurovision. Like, he's a legend. But most of our conversation, you'll probably like it if you get a chance to watch it when it comes out, is just about that love of music and his love for people who are just truly authentically themselves and having their own sound. They're not trying to be anybody else. And you can tell he really loves the music.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Wow. ABBA, that's a pretty big client.
And he signed ELO and
right.
Oh, that's so cool. It's so interesting talking to people that I was like, I never would have dreamed I would get to talk to so many fascinating people. Just me, this kid that grew up in Utah. Now I'm living in Sweden and I'm editing YouTube videos for people. And now I'm talking to rock stars. Cool.
Whereabouts in Utah did you grow up?
I grew up in Ogden.
Okay. I think I've played there actually a while ago. I can't remember the name of it was a theatre.
Was it the Egyptian Theatre?
I don't think so. I do remember the name of Ogden though, yeah.
Back in the day, there was a bunch of these like Egyptian themed places, and then they kind of closed down. And this is like one of the few that's really been, as far as I know, I could be talking out of my bum, but it's really neat, in good shape, and it's really historical and cool. But I digress. So that Fistbump song, that was fun. Did you write that because of the not having as much contact during the pandemic?
Gonna give you a fist bump, much better than a handshake. A hug is out of the question. I'm gonna teach you a lesson.
Kind of. It was weird. It wasn't, when I did it, it was literally just before the lockdown. So, and it's all a bit blurry, that time period in my head. So in my head, I think I kind of came up with it. It's not like I had a premonition or anything, but I'm sure people were talking about handshaking and stuff like that. But it was definitely before everyone, otherwise I would have called it elbow bump, and it just wouldn't have worked at all, because it was before people started elbow bump. But yeah, no, I reckon it was all around that time. And I remember I was actually out in LA the first time I played it live, and I played it, and I remember saying on stage, this is probably the last time I can play this, because it's just going to be a cliche now, because I remember everything was just locking down at that point. But no, I still play it now anyway. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be directly linked to the pandemic, but yeah, I think it's always better when you're not too obvious about it. I guess Fistbump is the most obvious I've ever been about anything really to do with the time that I've been living in. But yeah, people seem to like it.
So you don't like to be obvious? Does that mean that your stuff is, you work more in metaphors that people can kind of draw their own conclusions from?
Yeah, I just see a lot of people talking about, they're trying to be modern, and I just try not to. I try and make the music sound modern, but I don't particularly like, I mean, I don't write a lot of lyrics with the solo stuff anyway, so it's not really a big concern. It's more little sound bites that I do with words. But yeah, there's so many bands that will start writing about, I mean, about 20 years ago, when people started emailing, just an example, that like there'd be a few bands writing about emails or something, you know, and it's just like, well, this is just going to sound dated in a year, you know. So that's why I try and avoid it, really. I try and make things a bit more timeless, I think, because as soon as you start talking about any pop culture facets, that's when I think you kind of date yourself immediately, you know. Says the guy that wrote Fistbump, you know, but whatever.
It's not your fault it turned out to be so prophetic.
Yeah, I know.
On YouTube, the word for it is evergreen. That's like, there's people who are really working to make content that's going to be searchable. That's like search trends, and okay, everyone's talking about this scandal right now, so right now we have to make a video about this thing, and hopefully when people search, they'll find it. And then there's people working much harder to do evergreen content that no matter if you click on it now or 10 years from now, it's going to be relevant, it's going to be interesting, it's going to teach you something, it's going to entertain you, whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you have to have some kind of universal themes, you know, that you draw upon to reach a lot of people, you know, and to make it, to have a good longevity, you know.
So you've got a YouTube channel with some really interesting videos on there. I noticed in particular the Spinal Tap interview. Is that yours? Did you?
I just put it. I just had it on I think it was on a VHS or something, and I was just going through some old stuff and noticing what wasn't up and what I had, and I just thought, oh, this isn't even up, so I just put it up, and yeah, that gets commented on every day, or you know, it's like it's got, I don't know how many thousands of views, but yeah, I love Spinal Tap though, yeah, and I thought that was a crime that wasn't up because it's a brilliant interview.
Yeah, I was watching some of it and I was like, this is hilarious. These guys are just, talk about geniuses.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, that is comedic genius, yeah.
But
No, it's not a fluke. That proves it's not a fluke, the film, because it's, you know, they were just as funny when they did interviews after the film, you know.
I was like, well, there's two options here. One, he had it and he uploaded it. And the other one is he had something to do with the production of this. I wonder which one it is.
Nah, I mean, if I did, then I'd probably have a copyright on it and be, because these adverts come up and I'm thinking, who's getting the money for that? You know, not me. So, yeah, no, I think probably whoever owned the original copyright is getting something for that.
Well, YouTube is changing now that they're going to be starting to they're going to put ads on everyone's videos, even if they are not monetized. But you have over 1,000 subs, so you could get monetized.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I should.
1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours. That's what you need.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure you've got that with how many views some of those videos have.
Yeah, I should look into that, yeah. Because I'm wondering why adverts come up on it.
How do you want to make people feel with what you put out there?
I just, I don't know. I want to make, I mean, a lot of my solo stuff, there's a lot of dance beats on it. So I'd like people to dance to it. And that does happen sometimes at my gigs. Sometimes people just stand there, but so that's a big thing with me, because I do love electronic. I mean, when I say electronic dance music, people are going to immediately think of like some kind of rave thing, but no, I think that's the main thing. And then hopefully we'll listen to, the experimental side of it as well. And what I'm doing, I'm trying to mix my live guitar with these electronic beats, really. That's the kind of idea behind it. So I think we just want to make people dance, really.
Feel good, escape the stress.
Yeah.
It's just been a really hard time for everyone in the world, just this middle ground of not knowing when things are going to happen. And now we're sort of starting to come out on the other side of it, but we still need that escapism and that joy of music.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm very glad that gigs are coming back. It's going to be very strange, but exciting as well.
I'm still giggling thinking about what it would be like to just be on stage and the lights and feeling the music, and there's people like it must
no, that does happen.
There's like two kinds of people. The people who are constantly worried what people think about them, like, oh no, they're gonna see me enjoying music. And then the people who like go to concerts and they're like, this is my time to just let go and just scream and move my body however which way.
Those people, hopefully they can get to the front, because that's the people you want near you. That's the people you want to get their energy from.
That must be an addicting feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it's been so long that it's kind of almost can't remember what it's like. I've done the odd sort of online thing, actually in a venue, one of them. So kind of got the feeling again, but it's not the same really, with just a few cameras around,
So are you promoting something currently?
Yeah, I have. Well, my last solo album, massive cult following, is out. I did 2 albums last year, so that was like the latest one. So that's everywhere. That's all over Spotify and all that. And my band, She Made Me Do It, we just put out an EP, 5-track EP, and we're working on a video for the second single from that.
Cool. And how would you like to describe that sound to people who've never heard it?
The She Made Me Do It stuff is that kind of originated as kind of an electronic based band as well, but now we have live drums and everything, and we're more rock. I guess we're just sort of alternative rock with a kind of new wave tinge to it, I guess. Yeah, it's quite dark as well. I mean, we did a Cure cover, so that's quite a big influence as well. That kind of period of alternative, for want of a better word, music. It's quite a big influence on us, and my guitar stuff on that is definitely influenced by that. Yeah,
it's so hard to figure out labels and genres when they're always evolving and running into each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Before I talked to you, I had the opportunity to speak with John Butcher, and that guy cannot fit into a genre at all. On one album, he's got like all the genres.
All right, I need to check that out. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
That's
I'm
good.
discovering all kinds of amazing people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So when are those EPs and albums coming out?
They're both out already.
They're both out already, duh. There it is.
Yeah, this EP came out about a month ago or 2 months ago, maybe. So yeah.
I love
and
the
this
packaging.
came out late last year, my album.
That the casing is so cool. That must have been fun to design.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we work with this guy called Pushing Normal who does all our design stuff. But yeah, I saw that these were available to get manufactured, and I thought it'd be a good idea.
Cool.
To put it in a tin. Yeah.
Look,
So you can get that.
I'm so curious, why did you choose the name Massive Cult Following? Do you have a massive cult following?
No, it was kind of an ironic title, really. But I don't know if people got the joke, really. I think people maybe thought I was being serious, that I did have a massive cult following. But I kind of, the original cover I wanted to do was just going to be like a massive fly on top of a mountain. And it was kind of trying to say, in my head, I have a massive cult following, but I probably don't, because there's no one around to hear me. So, yeah, that was kind of the idea, but went with a different artwork in the end.
Well, I was looking at some of the comments and watching some of your performances, and people just being so excited. Like, I remember one person wrote something like, I think he thinks we don't like him here in America, or we're not ready for this, but we want it.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love playing in America. Yeah. I'm going back in October with Adam Ant for a week. So we're doing a few gigs out there.
Oh, that's neat. It's going to be so great to be around everybody again.
Yeah, right.
This is maybe a little heavy. Maybe you wouldn't want to talk about this. But when I was reading on your Wikipedia, and one of the bands, you became the main guitar player after one of your teammates passed away suddenly. Tom Edwards.
Yeah, that was it's about, how long ago was that? It's about 4 years ago now. We were in America, and we just started a tour. We were both, Tom was the other guitarist with Adam Ant. I mean, I was on the tour anyway, playing the other guitar. And that happened very suddenly. So quite a shocking experience, really. And we took a couple of days off. We still had the tour booked, so we just postponed a couple of gigs and then carried on. And so I was like the only guitarist. But basically, because I know Adam's music so well anyway, I think I managed to cover all the bases with the guitar, with the guitar parts. But that's very, I think that first gig, I remember it was in Toronto. The first gig after that happened, it was probably the hardest gig I've ever had to do. Not because technically I had to do more, it was just emotionally and mentally, it was, very hard. But once we'd done that, we just got in the swing of it again and just carried on the tour and got through it. But very, very shocking.
It's so hard to stuff down feelings when they're just so there, and to be in front of people and like, okay, now we're smiling, now we're performing. Like, I know this feeling, not to that degree, but I've also had some really hard times in my life where I still had to keep performing and pushing through and choking down the emotion. I was glad to perform, because with the adrenaline of that, I didn't have to think about it. But then as soon as you're done, then all the feelings come out.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing. I was going to say that it's like, if we'd have just gone home and stopped the tour, I think that would have been a lot harder to deal with what had happened. I think it was great that we did carry on, and it's kind of like a tribute to him almost that we did, because I'm sure he wouldn't have wanted us to go home. So it was good to be occupied and put your energy into something, rather than everything just stopping.
It's like these moments in our lives, there's just no preparing for them. There's no like book, there's no like list of, this is how you deal with it, this is the right way to deal with grief. And
absolutely, it's a hard one. Definitely. Because you're like a family on the road anyway, it's kind of,
totally. It's like people think they know who you are from interviews or whatever, but nobody knows who you are like your family on the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, absolutely, all three.
Like, please, like there should be some kind of NDA or something, like, okay, before we make it huge, please don't say bad stuff about me when you write your novel.
Yeah, it should be a disclaimer, really.
Yeah. When you
Not
write your
always the case.
biography in 40 years, please don't talk about that time I did that one thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's unavoidable. You can't stop people sometimes.
It must be kind of scary thinking about people having dirt on you from what you did when you were a dumb kid.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I can't remember though. It's so long ago. So my main website is scantregard.com, and she made me do it. Site is shemmdi.com.
Yes, and I'll put that down there too.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Yeah,
Yes.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on my channel and sharing, and it's really great. It's exciting to see about how it will be to go back on the road, and I will include all the dates where if people happen to be watching this from somewhere in the vicinity, hopefully they'll see you.
I hope so. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So the way that I finish my conversations is I give hugs.
Oh,
Hugs.
okay. You don't want a fist bump?
Oh, sorry. Oh my goodness. You even said in your song, hugs are not allowed. Sorry, fist bump.
No, virtual hugs are right. Yeah. Jolly good.
Okay, bye.
Okay, cheers.
Gotta give you a fist bump. Much better than a handshake. Heart is out of the question. Gotta teach you a lesson. Yeah. Gotta give you a fist bump. Much better than a handshake. Heart is out of the pressure. Gonna teach you up, gonna teach you up, gonna teach you up, gonna teach you up, gonna teach you up.